Hello there, how are you? My name's Helen Harrison and today I am talking about fear. Do you live with fear and anxiety, and are you tired of living with fear and anxiety? Do you imagine what it would be like not to have fear and anxiety? I'm very driven in educating and talking about this because I have lived the very large part of my life in fear and anxiety, and it's only been the last few years where actually I feel like I'm living a lot more of my life in calmness and thriving. So what's fear and anxiety about? Fear and anxiety is this feeling of just feeling unsafe. It's worry, what's going to happen. It's anxiousness. It's you overthink. You know that monkey mind in your head? It just keeps going and going and you overthink stuff. And anxiety plays out differently for everybody. I'll talk a little bit about me because I want to normalize what you're feeling. And if you're driven enough, you'll do something about it to change it. So what it is, when we have fear and anxiety, it's this feeling of feeling very unsafe. And where'd it come from? Did you just wake up one day and feel like that? For a lot of us, no. What has happened is when you were young, when you were children, fear, it might have been mum and dad were fighting. 5 years old and you can hear them out in the lounge room. Or it could be at 8 years old when your dog died. But what has happened is that stress, that's trauma. And the body goes into fight, flight, freeze. And so that energy is sitting in the body, but you actually haven't come back down from it. Because unless you were raised by parents who sat you down and encouraged and supported you to process those emotions, yell, scream, cry, jump up and down, that energy is still sitting in the body. And you just park it away. Then something else happens. Park it away. Something else happens. What starts to begin to happen is that you start living from the wounded part of you, the wounded self. And so you have got all this trauma, this stress sitting in your body. And it's just too freaking painful. So you start living from the head up and you start trying to work it out. And you then get into teenage years and self-esteem, and you start looking outside yourself and you start comparing yourself to others, and I'm not good enough, and you get in the picture. So what then begins to happen, you're in your early 20s and who am I? Why am I on this planet? What am I meant to be doing? And all of this fear, this anxiety and feeling unsafe, and it plays out differently for everybody. And you can suffer with stress, anxiety, depression, relationship issues, OCD. Your anxiety may play out, you come home, you left the kitchen nice and tidy, you come home and the kitchen is trashed and you feel this anxiety coming up in your body and you get angry. There's a lot going on. If you didn't have anxiety, you'd come home and, kitchen's a mess. Who left it in a mess? And you go and find that person and, hey, I left this kitchen tidy. It's in a mess. Could you get to it? Instead of having such a strong reaction. So, when we have anxiety, when we have fear, it is a feeling of feeling very unsafe, and your body is reacting to that. So the ultimate is you've got to go back to the past traumas, to the past stresses, and you've got to release that energy. And sometimes talking therapy is not enough. And this is where find yourself a therapist. Look, I know in my 30s and 40s, I was constantly working at this because I thought, you know what? This isn't normal. I was known as the holiday wrecker. And, for me, that's where my anxiety was at its peak. And I felt very unsafe. Where do I belong? It's like my centeredness, my groundedness was gone when we went away on holiday. Different for everybody. That was just my example of how it played out for me. And when we have fear, when we have anxiety, unless you've actually had it, you've got no idea what it is like. It is a terrible feeling, and particularly if you have panic attacks. But what it is the body, the unconscious, it's doing a fabulous job in keeping us safe. But ultimately, we actually have to tell the unconscious, the subconscious, that fear has passed because it's still sitting there. So let's go to present day. When does it come in for you? When does anxiety play out? It might be when you're driving the car, or when you're on the highway, or when you're in the shopping centre, or when your partner yells at you. But you know what? It's your responsibility to heal that. It's your body saying, I've got some past wounds, I've got trauma, I've got baggage, and I've got to look at it. Because my question to you would be, is what would it feel like if you felt calm? If you could bring your whole nervous system down to calm and just thrive, that you're not living in fear of what could go wrong, what is going to go wrong, what someone may do. It's being able to just trust the flow of life, and trust that you will have the tools within yourself, that if something out there does happen, you can self-regulate yourself and you can bring yourself back down to calm. At the moment, when you live in fear and when you live in that feeling of feeling unsafe, you're not able to actually self-regulate yourself and bring yourself back down to calm. Because it's all bubbling away beneath the surface. And, you may try to meditate. Brilliant. However, ultimately, you've got to get to those past traumas, those past hurts, and move them. And so I focus a lot on this, and I talk with people about this a lot. It comes from my first-hand experience. Anybody who knows me is that I've always been quite a hyper person. Always, my nervous system has always been quite fiery, and I've never really felt calm. And it's due to past traumas and stresses, and you've got to move them. So if you're living with anxiety and with fear on a regular basis, you don't have to. You don't have to medicate. You've just got to find a therapist, someone like me or somebody else that you trust, and allow yourself to heal those past hurts, those past traumas. You haven't just landed on the planet. And we are like a jigsaw puzzle, and we have pieces. And sometimes there are pieces that need some healing. Name it, call it whatever you want, but clear out your baggage so that you can go from living in fear, in anxiety, to actually feeling calm and thriving. And then with that, the daily job or role is to constantly self-regulate yourself and to balance yourself. So that'll be with good eating and exercise and being able to regulate, okay, how am I feeling right now? Journal writing, meditation, mindfulness, hugely important, to just able to balance you and regulate yourself. And so that you constantly live in a way of calmness, thriving. And then if any stresses come in, you can self-regulate yourself. But when you live in constant fear and anxiety and you're hypervigilant, very, very hard to self-regulate yourself. Hope this has been helpful. Have a look at more of my YouTube channels. Heaps of information. Have a great day.